When I came to Dubai, my whole entire life fell apart and I didn't even expect that it would happen. You know, sometimes life, you're like, oh, I'm on this journey.
Is your job to be the leader or is your job to be the referee?
So for me, I see my biggest role as giving the biggest opportunities to the women where they can scale. But what I found is my identity was always attached to how successful I was or to what role I was doing. And I only realized that afterwards when I basically lost everything.
So what was the first thing that came through for you that was able to pay you a wage and direct you in a certain way?
So I think I started to get paid for speaking events and things like that. That's probably the biggest thing, was my speaking events. At the moment, we've got the Female Founders Network, which is just one of my biggest pride and joys because it's where I could even cry. I just am so proud of the community.
Welcome back to Gladiator TV. I'm not Dariush Soudi, I am Dave Crane. Where's Dariush, you ask? Because you've probably asked over the last couple of weeks. He's off saving the world on a secret mission, which you can tell me about, but I can't tell you about, and that's what makes it secret. But what we can reveal to you is we've got an incredible guest on today's show. We're going to be looking at the world of entrepreneurism, especially for females in the business world and the communities that are being built here in the UAE that you might find wherever you are in the world are reflected or maybe even will spark you to be able to do something very similar in your particular neck of the woods. Joining us is an incredible business lady who's got a CV that says that she should be the next Prime Minister of the planet. Let's judge and see what you think. I'd like to introduce you to the incredible Nicki Bedford. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much. That was such a great introduction.
Thank you. Better than the one I did at the beginning, which kind of in the middle. So it changed quite considerably. There you go. But we'll put it in the outtakes and you can catch it later. So you've been to Dubai for about, 3 years or so? What's your thoughts? Because it just changes all the time, doesn't it? It
changes all the time, even in the 3 years that I've been here, but I absolutely love it. I love it almost as much as my hometown, which is Sydney, Australia. The minute I landed, I was like, this is it for me for a very long time. I can just feel it. So.
One of the things that's so fascinating about it, you weren't here during the pandemic, where you came after the pandemic?
I was here just after it, but people were still wearing masks.
Right, of course.
So you still felt the air of COVID, but it wasn't as full force.
Got you. I've got colleagues and clients in Australia who witnessed, like, for instance, in Melbourne, it was almost like a complete lockdown for like a year and a half.
Oh my gosh.
And they couldn't get to work, couldn't do anything. There's only limited things they could do. If you're online, that was okay. But what we had in Dubai, and I can't believe we're talking about the pandemic, but we had like about 3 weeks of lockdown while everyone was wandering around the world, what do we do? And then we had about a weekend to go out and breathe and do stuff, still with masks and everything else. And then we got 2 weeks of lockdown again. We were told to social distance and everything else. And then that was it.
Yeah.
For the rest of the pandemic, make sure you keep your distance, make sure you sanitize, make sure you wear a mask, but then go to work, do your thing and be very careful.
The thing is, it was fairly under control here as well compared to other markets like the UK, for example, and even Australia. But we were like, it's awful to even talk about it again because it was just, we were homebound for weeks and weeks and even months on end. And we could not see the end was not in near. The end was not
none
inside.
of us knew what was going to happen. It brought me closer to my wife because I was able to avoid her for the first 18 years of our marriage until then. And I was like, who are you? And I had a worse situation because I was an entertainer, training people to speak, doing gigs. And she was an award-winning wedding photographer, both of which fell off a cliff with immediate effect.
Yeah.
So reinventing is a really important part of my world. So tell me about yours, because I don't know it. I know a little bit about your story.
Yes.
I'd love to hear what makes you who you are right now.
Oh my goodness. Well, that is just an absolute Pandora's box. So I guess the shorter version is when I came to Dubai, my whole entire life fell apart. And I didn't even expect that it would happen. You know, sometimes life, you're like, oh, I'm on this journey and then next minute, everything that you ever thought to be true just pulls itself from underneath you and you just have to start figuring it out. So to give you a little bit of a backstep, my career has always been incredibly important. I've always been incredibly driven, ambitious, and I've loved just climbing the corporate ladder. But what I found is my identity was always attached to how successful I was or to what role I was doing. And I only realized that afterwards when I basically lost everything. And
But you're working with big companies.
I was.
Give me some background on that.
So my background was tech, media, advertising. I started in sales. I moved into sales leadership and then business leadership. More recently, I was head of Asia Pacific at BuzzFeed. And I guess I absolutely loved my time in corporate and BuzzFeed, but I always knew that I was born for more. I always knew it. I was working with, I mean, the thing is with companies or corporates is you can only work, there are guardrails and there are systems in place that you can't move outside of. And I would remember thinking so many times, I'm like, oh, I could absolutely take this business to the next level if we did this, this, and this. But you don't have the ability to do that because it's not your business.
It's not. And often the way it goes with politics is if you bring it up, then you become the pain.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to hear it from you. They want to hear it from that person whose job it is to come up with it.
Totally.
So it can be challenging.
So I guess I was actually offered my dream role, which would have taken me to New York with BuzzFeed. But at the same time, I was offered a role here in Dubai, and I'd never knew where Dubai was even on the map. And I was like, yes, let's just do it. I'm going to come. I just had this gut feeling. I moved over, quickly realized the role wasn't quite right. And at the same time, I knew that my relationship wasn't right. So I quit my 7-year relationship, quit the job all within 2 weeks with absolutely nothing to go to. And as you can imagine, whilst I'm talking about it in a positive way now, I'm like, oh my gosh, this was amazing. At the time, I was like, what has happened?
Can I just unpack that? So you're in a long-term relationship. Had your partner moved with you to Dubai?
No.
So over there. So there's that stretching that went on.
Yes.
And the job that you came for didn't turn out to be the way that you wanted it to.
Correct.
That's a really challenging situation to be in because do I go back home? Do I stay with the company and take what else I can get? Or do I just bite my lip and see what happens? What drove you to make the decisions that you did to be independent from both those things?
The one thing that I have always had is this delusional self-belief. So I have a lot of insecurities. Oh, I've had a lot of insecurities, have them. But one thing that that hasn't ever wavered is the self-belief. Like, you know, at the beginning where you're like future, you know, president of the world, I'm like, amen to that. Like, I believe it.
Yeah, I do believe it.
I just believe it. I believe in my values and I believe in just this drive to do and build big things. And I knew that you can't do that in corporate. It was just a matter of time, really. Although I did love my time there. And if you're having a good time, you're never going to leave, right?
Right.
So when
comfort zones.
Yeah, you're just sort of in your comfort zone. I mean, we're always driving and striving for more, but there comes a point where you're like, I need to and a part of it also was proving that I always said that I backed myself. You can only ever back yourself if you're in a situation where no one else is backing you, right? When you're absolutely on your own. So for me, it was just thinking, okay, well, what am I going to do with this? First, I'm going through a massive breakdown. So I just need to get through that and then I will start to rebuild. And I have no idea what I'm doing, but I just felt very supported. I can't explain the feeling other than this level of relief. I felt like I was finally in the driver's seat in my life. And I also felt like, this is exactly where I need to be right now, even though I'm completely burnt out. My nervous system was absolutely shot to death at that moment. And I couldn't see, you know, what the next step was.
You can't see the wood for the trees. And emotionally, you're all over the point where you kind of have to shut it down or just let it play out until you can find yourself again.
Absolutely.
But you're in a foreign country, in a foreign city. And one of the things that Dubai does really well is people get on with their own stuff and expect you to get on with yours.
Yes.
And when you are in a position where you see everyone doing really well and you're standing still and we're too busy and moving around you, it really highlights that you don't know what's going on next.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know. So, because I didn't have a support, I'd only recently moved to Dubai. I did not have a support network, and the friends that I had before were at the organization that I worked at. So I had no one around me, and I felt the most loneliest in my entire life because I had one best friend. She was based in Boston, who I called endlessly. But otherwise, I just felt like I was completely alone. I was stripped of absolutely everything in my life at that moment. And but I still felt excited. I can't explain it because I was so burnt out that my nervous system wasn't allowing me to sleep. So I wasn't sleeping at all, even though I didn't have anything going on. And I didn't know what I wanted to do work-wise. So some part of me thought I was failing. But then this other part of me was like, don't worry, Nicki, like we've got this. You know that we've got this.
It's like a shedding of the skin,
like you've
being a
always got
phoenix.
this.
So you've got to burn off the old version of you to be able to find what rises from the ashes and moves forward.
Yes.
So when you did that, what was the first thing that you were able to latch onto and say, I've been waiting a long time. That sounds like a good move. What is it that suddenly shone in front of it, like my phone not being switched off in time, that got you going, this is where I need to be?
So I took some time. I went traveling as well and tried to heal my nervous system. That was first and foremost. The biggest thing for me was I always wanted to go back to what my passions were. My passion has always been women in business. So when I grew up, I was treated like the son of the family. My dad always treated me like the son of the family. And he was like, Nicki, you deserve more than 2 seats at the boardroom table. Like, go out and get what you're after. And quite aggressively at times, like sometimes that emotional nourishment would have been good from dad, but I'm just kidding. He was amazing. But what I found is I never questioned whether I deserved a seat at the table. And what I noticed firsthand is other women did not feel the same or operate in the same way. And so when I was able to help as a mentor or even a leader, I got so much gratification out of helping women. So my first port of call was to work with women in business. Now, at the time, because I had no network in Dubai, I knew that I needed to gain some visibility, because if I'm going to build a business, people need to know who I am. I've obviously got great experience. No one knows that here. So I started a podcast called She Leads the Way, which was for women in business. I interviewed influencers, executives from Pepsi, MasterCard, Google. I even secured a massive piece of business directly with Google. I was flown to Pakistan to host one of their tech events. Then I started doing things like chairperson of the Women Leaders Summit and the CEO Forum, and it all started to sort of spiral.
Was your background in speaking and hosting then, or was it something that just came from the conversations and doors that opened? Actually,
I haven't ever really done. The thing is, as a leader, you are a speaker and I guess trying to be inspirational to your team. But I'd been speaking on stages from a corporate perspective, but never professionally, ever professionally. And it was never a really big thing for me. But I just knew that in order to build out my presence, I needed to build out my visibility. And that felt like the fastest way to get there. And it was. I just had to be consistent. I actually didn't like doing it. I knew that when I started, because I was still burnt out, I wasn't able to fully grasp it or enjoy it. Because as you would know, it takes so much energy, right? Like finding the right guests, making sure they're aligned, making sure that you've got a great dialogue, making sure the conversation is valuable. And I would go into episodes thinking, just 40 more minutes and you'll be done. And that's not how I feel about today's.
I was just going to say, we can stop it now if you want.
I'm not burnt out now. But I was burnt out but I was pushing as well. And I still hadn't overcome the fact that I need to prove myself immediately. And I was just pushing the candle on both ends.
There's a phrase that I came across yesterday that maybe everybody knows, but because I'm a bit of an old fart, I'd never heard of it before. My daughter contacted my wife to say that I've got some friends. She's staying over at a friend's house. Another friend wanted to meet her. And she said, I don't know how much left I've got in my social battery. And I thought, what's it mean? What's that term? But it's perfect. And as an entertainer and as a speaker and as a podcaster, there is a social battery for giving to people and sending to the outside world. And when it is depleted, there is nothing left.
No.
You need to go away and recharge it, because it's almost like rubbing bone against bone. If you have to give more and there's nothing in the tank, it's really painful and really difficult. And that's kind of the space you're talking about.
Definitely. And the thing is, you'll never get the most out of whatever you're doing. So I would always push and push, but I was never truly thrilled with my performance. Not that it was about me, it was always about the women, but there's always more energy that you can bring, greater questions. And, you know, I loved the podcast because it was very much in line with my values and highlighting and celebrating women.
It sounds like it was therapeutic to you as well.
It was, and that's why I went to it, but it was just difficult at the time.
And also, I mean, but my career previously was on radio, and after a while, things can seem like they're normal.
Yeah.
And so you take it for granted and you don't realize that's an incredibly privileged and elevated position you're in to get people's attention for a period of time while you're sharing with them an interview or some thoughts and some ideas, some insights into business or whatever it is. You're asking a ton of people, and supposing you even have like 20 people paying attention, that's 20 people who have stopped doing what they had planned to spend time with you. So it's important that we do consider what's in it for them.
Absolutely.
But it's sometimes hard to do when you're so close to yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So what happened next? You did a podcast. How many episodes did you get through before you started finding other things coming to you? Or did you use it as a kind of Trojan horse to knock on doors, get in guests?
Yes.
And then say, oh, by the way, hello, have you got anybody sitting in that seat in your office or your organization?
Hello, I have arrived. So I don't know. So I did 43 episodes in total, 42 or 43 episodes in total. But once I had launched, the intention was for me to make my presence clear. So I was actively looking for opportunities pretty quickly. So it wouldn't have been from episode 1 because I was so clunky that I never want to listen to that episode again.
And you don't realize until you go back to it.
I'm like, oh my goodness.
Exactly. Many times.
But that's okay. We need to do these things. You have to always put yourself in uncomfortable situations.
My phrase is jump and grow wings on the way down.
Yeah,
that's how I approach life completely.
Yeah, I agree.
So you did your 43 episodes, and during those 43, you started making connections that could turn into business. Were you earning during that time?
No.
Or were you just kind of winging it as it goes?
Winging it.
So did you get to 43 and stop there because you went, jobs come through? Or did you kind of peak in doing the shows and you wanted to take a break from it?
No, actually 43 came because I was taking on too many external projects. No, I wasn't earning anything at the time. However, my intention was never to earn money with the podcast. My intention was never to do the podcast long term. It was going to be a step. I knew I was going to do something in this space with women in business. And in my mind, if it did turn into something bigger, then fine. But I felt that this wasn't exactly, when you have I'm very intuitive, and I just knew that there was going to be more.
One of the things about podcasting is it allows you to become a broadcaster, create your own media, and the world is receptive to it now, which it wasn't maybe 10 plus years ago, because radio was king and old media was in charge of everything.
Yes, it was. I was there when it was.
Of course, same here. I was ex-BBC and so on. And I love the landscape that we have now, where there's a kind of hybrid between the two. And if somebody says they've got a podcast, you're really interested to see what you might be missing by not paying attention to that. And the fact that there's podcasts everywhere on every subject doesn't mean we can't have more.
Of course.
But it does raise the game on that. So what was the first thing that came through for you that was able to pay you a wage and direct you in a certain way?
So I think I started to get paid for speaking events and things like that. That's probably the biggest thing, was my speaking events, which was funny because I've always had a big fear of public speaking. And no one would ever believe me when I tell, because I do public speaking a lot now, and it's no longer a fear, although I do get nervous sometimes going on stage for bigger events. But I was awful. The first time I did public speaking, I forgot my name, and then I forgot the company name, and I was just there frozen in a senior role. And I was like, is everyone looking at me? It was absolutely awful. But I'm always one to throw myself, sometimes too quickly, but always into, whenever I think, oh my gosh, I'm so scared to do that, I will find the first opportunity to go and do it. And with this one, I remember absolutely sweating through everything that I was wearing, I was sweating. But I ended up getting through it because you just keep going. And you know what? No one is going to go, oh, she forgot what she was saying at the beginning.
They don't know.
Exactly. They actually don't know.
I think it's all part of the act.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, what would I do if I went out? I didn't know who the clients were, and I'm on stage. I'd probably say, before we start, I want you to give yourselves a massive cheer and shout your name out. Ready? 1, 2, 3, shout it. And you do it until you're listening going, that's the name of the company.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I've done it that many times now. It seems secondary, but there are ways and means of getting around it. But people don't know what they don't know.
Of course.
And as long as it's like being a swan on the surface, gliding effortlessly, a little legs like that. but they're just happy to see that it worked. And that's all they want.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, so for me, that was a very, very big thing. The public speaking side of it, got over that. And then I started to build out and branch and work on different businesses. And then I landed on one that I was excited about. So I built Season, which is a sales platform leveraged by AI. Then I was like, okay, well, I love that. I'm either going to go all in with Season or I'm going to pivot and move into Lens. And Lens was just, I felt much more attached. I was so excited. I'm 75% into the app when I was like, wait a second. There was just something that was telling me about doing a community for female founders, like a female founders network, which is what I did.
Where did you get that from? Because were people saying to you, or did you just see a gap?
No. So I tell you what it was. So it was during the time that I was building out Lens, and obviously my background is building international sales forces, and I've led multi-million-dollar businesses. And what I noticed is female founders or females don't have the same level of access to high caliber networks or a support system. And so I wanted to create one where we had ambitious women that could then support each other while they're building out their own ventures. So I created the Female Founders Network, which is essentially a community for ambitious women, early to growth stage entrepreneurs, helping them scale their business, but in an incredible environment. But it's one part, I guess, community, but another part, it's the infrastructure and network that allows the women to grow and scale. And then we've done that incredibly well. So we secured Google on as a launch partner, which was fantastic. And then we had over 100 members in the first 5 months. The growth was 23% month on month, not including the summer period.
Yeah.
Not including the summer period. Guys, where are you?
By the time this goes out, it'll be next year's summer period.
Yeah. No. That was completely to be expected. But it's just gone from, win to win, and I just feel extremely proud of it.
Now, having run many communities, when you say you've got the founding females, really big, ambitious, heavy-hitting, resourceful people, is your job to be the leader or is your job to be the referee? Because with that many egos and that many ambitious people, there will be, can I say, catfighting without sounding too terrible? What is your role in this? Because it's not an easy job to look after everybody and keep them equal.
No. So that's actually a really good question, because I think it would be almost...
Well, as opposed to the other ones, which are rubbish. Thank you very much.
Finally, a good question. No, I'm kidding. So I think that, so for me, I see my biggest role as giving the biggest opportunities to the women where they can scale. And of course, I'm going to be there side by side while they do it. We always talk about, like, women are incredibly supportive of each other, but they can be incredibly competitive of one another as well. That is not the space that I want to create here. And so for me, it's very important that we find the right women to build out the network that aligns with those values. And then the other part of it is when we are creating these educational programs to make sure that because as entrepreneurs, you're wearing many hats, right? You're wearing the finance hat, the HR hat, the marketing hat, the branding hat, all at once. And sometimes you're really good at one skill. You need training in all of the other skills. And that's what we want to be able to facilitate, is making sure that you have the education, but not just education from the right experts, knowing that you're getting the right sort of information that will help you move to the next level. But for me, I pride myself on being a great connector. I care so deeply about the women and their businesses. And I feel like my role in it is also setting the example and making sure that we're aligning with those values. And that is obviously being ambitious. I mean, the biggest part of the business is women that sign up for Female Founders Network. It's not for a passion project. It is for their career. But secondary to that, it's having a level of generosity. So knowing that you want to build your own business, but are you able to give back to others that want that as well? It's that joint celebration, so that, you can be vulnerable, but you can also celebrate the wins, and we're going to be equally as supportive. that for me is a win-win. And when you're in synergy, you're just going to continue to grow.
But that comes from you. You have to drive that with your own values.
Yes.
When you're bringing people in, and you constantly have to reinforce that as it goes. Because I feel we're in a kind of world where it's gone suddenly me, more than I've ever known. And I'm a really old person. I've never seen a time where everyone is just grabbing stuff off the table and holding on to it and saying, I did that.
Yeah.
So if you're growing really strong entrepreneurs, but you make sure that they are outside looking at the group to make sure the community grows, there's a lot of challenges in getting everyone to be on the same page for that. And there must be people you have to say, I'm sorry, but this isn't for you.
Yeah. I have to say that, I mean, you're not qualified to be a part of the Female Founders Network. I'm sorry.
Why? Why?
Because you're not a female, for starters.
Why only females?
Anyway, well, I was going to answer your other question first.
Do the first why. Do the second why after.
I can't remember the first why.
All right. Just
The
any of them is good.
So why can't you join?
Yeah.
Well. So for starters, I think it's really important to be forthcoming in that just because we're Female Founders Network doesn't mean that we're anti-males by any means. In fact, for me, a lot of the career progression that I had was from great male bosses. I've always been supported. In fact, sometimes in most cases, they were my male managers over my female managers. For us, the reason why it's the Female Founders Network is because women, we work differently when we're together. We want that vulnerability and that level of support. We can be more vulnerable. You know, our emotions can come into play in the best way. But the nurturing ability at the same time being like, go out and get there is what sets us. And that you can only ever have that if you're with females. So for us, a lot of our events, we allow males to be there as well. But in the direct community, like no one's going to get it more than other females who are going through the same thing.
Understood. And also I put you on the spot, which is, there we go. I'm just glad to see you squirm a tiny little bit. Because here's the thing.
No, only because the only reason why I squirmed is because it is a difficult question to answer when you're talking about males versus females.
Yeah.
And because the thing is, the story that I don't want to talk about is the unjust for women. That's not why we're a Female Founders Network. Mm-hmm. I see that we have, opportunity more than ever right now. We just need to build on it. And that's where we should be placing our focus.
I'm all for it. I do a lot of work with women empowerment. I'm 100% on the gang. I've got, my world is full of females, my wife, my daughter, my mom, my dogs, all female, closest people in my life. That's it. So I'm on board. Because here's the thing. And I was half flippant, but also I'm really curious to know, whenever men get together and have men's groups, that either, it's the wrong phrase to say in polite company, mine's bigger than yours, comparison thing. Or you get men saying, I can't cope. There's not, to my mind, maybe I just don't get invited to them, but there's no replication for what you're talking about, which is let's support ourselves. We've got a spine that goes all the way through, which is we're all female, which means we've got a lot in common, but we also know what the world is like. So we're going to be focused on getting the best for everybody across the finishing line. I find it very hard to find men's groups that do a similar thing. Yeah. You're either celebrating how good we are, or you're celebrating how vulnerable and dangerous the world is and how we've never been trained to cope with it.
Yeah, see, that's challenging. I think the biggest thing that I have found with men is they've never felt comfortable enough to be vulnerable, and it's always been shunned upon as if they're not that strong masculine man, when in fact there is vulnerability. Like it's okay to be vulnerable. But in terms of business circles, I've obviously not been invited to males only areas, but I think that...
Neither have I, so we're in the same gang as that. But it's interesting when we talk about this because it's a real challenge right now that the world is seeing more. I mean, the highest amount of suicides are all those businessmen who just don't know how to fit in with it. The pressure's on them to make the whole thing go, and they can't tell anybody all about it. And I won't put you on the spot with this because we've had many other shows where this has come up as a conversation. But do the ladies in your organization find it easy just to go blur and share?
I think if they're in the right environment, then it becomes a lot easier for women to share. There are certainly women that don't feel comfortable sharing, but they feel more comfortable knowing that they're in an environment where that's safe and that's okay. But I think that it's leading by example and making sure that, because we also want women to be like, this is what I accomplished this week, and for that not to be shunned upon. I want the women to be like, we've just hit this amount of revenue, or we've just hit this amount of followers, or I've just been awarded this, and for us all to clap. And that's exactly what we're seeing within the community as well. And that's what I want to see, because sometimes, especially when you're a founder, you don't get recognized for anything. You are overworked, overstressed, a million priorities. And blamed. And, team challenges or everything arises all at the same time, and you're never, ever celebrated. So we need to create a space where that every small step is something worth celebrating.
And you've got this curious position of you have to lead from the front, and by leading from the front, you're actually leading from the back and supporting everybody.
Yeah.
So your role is probably as a tribe leader, being a chief communications officer, where your job is to own the conversations and help the conversations flow and let people just do what they need to do within the nurturing space of the organization.
Yeah.
And that's a real challenge to do, because you obviously have your own companies. You've got Lens, you've got Season that you're creating. How do you manage to balance the time?
So one of my biggest challenges that I've ever faced is burnout. In fact, I've probably gone through burnout 2, 3, 4 times in the last 3 years since quitting, because I thought until I am at a position where I am, deemed to be somewhat successful, I cannot stop. And that's something that I have grappled with. I'm over it now because I need to be over it so that I can set a good example for the women in the community and beyond. But burnout has taught me that you don't need to, we've got such a hustle culture, and growing up my whole entire career, I led that hustle culture. My favorite movie was Wolf of Wall Street.
Nice.
I felt like I was the wolf, in sales, especially knocking down those doors. And we just don't operate like that. Success doesn't come from that, because success comes from, I'm not going to say balance, because there is no balance in entrepreneurship, but it's in truly understanding how you operate and figuring out how to be most productive, but then also knowing that rest is productive as well. That was the biggest, in my whole mind. I was like, rest isn't productive. Rest is for the weak. Get the hell up.
Yeah. And it's important. One of the things I learned a long time ago is the importance of walking between meetings, not running between meetings. And for my own mental and emotional health, sometimes just to say no.
Yeah.
You know what? This isn't good. I don't want to do it. In fact, you're not a nice client. I don't think we should do this.
Totally.
And it takes a lot when you need the money to make that decision, but you don't need the money, so it's toxic. And if you give it to somebody else, it leaves a gap that you can fill with somebody you really want.
Yeah.
But it's not easy when so many things are flying around to make those kind of decisions with it. So when you're doing that, do you find a problem telling other people that this is what they should do? Because most people feel the need to keep hustling. And if somebody says, slow down, well, you slow down. I've got stuff to do.
I think, honestly, it's just something that needs to be repeated more and more until people get it. For me, the reason that I decided I didn't want it anymore is because I was so excited about what I was doing, but I actually wasn't excited. My whole personality had depleted. I wasn't really sleeping. And it was the 3rd or 4th or 5th time. And I'm like, this is not fun. And I cannot operate under these. This is ridiculous. And so it was a real wake up moment. When I'm speaking to other women about burnout, I do try and talk about the same things, but sometimes I think it's something that you have to go through to realize you actually don't want to operate like that, and just know that we're going to be here for you when that moment comes. But beyond that, it's also through education and knowing and talking about some of the things that works for you. Sometimes people have I'm an early riser, so I get a lot of my meditation, my workout and everything done super early in the morning, and I'm very productive early in the morning. And some of my softer tasks or meetings are in the afternoon. If I have a very, very full-on back-to-back meetings, interviews, then the next day I try and have a slower, a bit of a slower day. It won't always work, but you have to be intentional with it, because if you're not intentional, then you'd keep chasing this thing that never appears.
Yeah, I hear it completely. What I got effective in, remember, during a pandemic, it went dead for me, nothing. So I converted my home office into a home studio, green
Yeah.
screened everything, and went live every single
Oh,
day.
wow.
I did 200 live shows on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, just broadcasting just to get out there because I had to meet clients and had to work with them. And once things started changing and people started going back out in public and the mood was different, I wasn't suffering from burnout. I was suffering from a thing called burn in.
Yeah.
And what that is you don't know you've burnt out. And it's like getting your tires stuck in sand. You're revving the engine,
Yeah.
the spinning and not catching. And so one thing that my wife had to do was to say, take Saturdays off. I said, I'm not taking a day off. I daren't do it. I'm working 24/7. I need to. But one of the best things I ever did was exactly that. Just to say Saturdays, I'm not working.
Yeah.
And training people not to call me on a Saturday. I'm not available. And they do learn. If they want to work with you, they learn the hours that you have and they respect them as well. But I think it was really important to go through that to make sure I never have to do that again. And the same way with the people I work with, when you go through no clients, when you do get clients back again, as you found when you first arrived in Dubai, when things start picking up again, you're able to say, I could survive without any of you. I know what that's like.
Totally.
So I don't want the wrong ones in. I want the right ones in and we'll grow together.
Yeah.
And so you're able to make those kind of decisions where if you're always fighting to stay at the top and you're always worried about who's behind you and all the rest of it, it's a very different game.
I've actually always been very protective over my energy when I will not work with people that we're not aligned. Like I've always been very careful with that. And you just have to, you make mistakes, obviously, but that I agree is so incredibly important. It's just not worth it in the long run.
So I want to talk about thought leadership because it's unfortunately become a buzz term like influencer. And I love the idea of thought leadership purely because of the fact that I think if you're really good at what you do, the world has an audience waiting with people who love what you do and need leadership with that in mind. And I think that in a world that's becoming more fragmented, where we see leaders popping up all over the place, I'm going to show my geeky side to explain exactly what I'm going to talk about. I'm watching a show at the moment called Alien Earth, from aliens and arriving on Earth, and I've just looked like a complete idiot, but I'm going to finish
Sounds
what
fascinating,
I'm saying.
that
It's
one.
good. It's like from Alien. Have you seen the movie Alien?
No.
You've never seen Alien?
No, I'm not a movie person.
Okay, well, if you do, you'll go, and you'll say Dave was right.
Okay.
So this movie has a spaceship that lands on Earth in the future, but Earth is no longer governed by countries. It's governed by 5 different companies, 5 different corporations who've carved up the space between their tech. And so they are making the decisions. And each of those corporations has a family that runs a corporation. And far-fetched it might be, but it kind of feels like we're going in that particular direction right now. Now, the reason I bring it up is not because in our lifetime that's going to be what we're going to end up with, but I believe that thought leadership and building a community for people who buy into your vision, your values, who want to be associated with you, grow their space, grow their family, is a really important part of that ecosystem, because when the world is full of fake news, but the people around you who you trust will tell you what they really think, that's when you need to have that community. So positioning yourself as a thought leader who has a community around is almost like building your own digital country in a way. Your community is not by accident following what you're doing. Yeah. They're doing it because you've got a vision and they're contributing, and you could be on a little desert island, or you could be, it's a digital world and we're in the middle of Dubai, but there's something in that. So when you're building and you're doing your thought leadership, do you find that people around you are ambitious to the point where they could be like you? Or do you find they have parameters, maybe imposter syndrome, that's preventing them from really letting themselves go?
Is your question asking whether women, like visibility on women?
Yeah, it is. I'm curious to find, because not everyone can be an influencer, not everyone can be a thought leader.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really important currency for those who can do it, to step up. And I find that, I've got a community of thought leaders, and many of them are wannabe, but maybe. And many of them just are curious by what's around them and saying, I hope some stardust falls on top of me as well.
Yeah.
All of which are valid.
Yeah.
I just wonder where you're on that.
I think so. For what I'm seeing with the founders in my network, particularly, is there is such a need to be a thought leader in their field that'll help them. I mean, the rise of the founders being the new media brand is there. If you have a brand in your own right and you're the founder, being a public figure is almost necessary in this day and age where trust is built in public. The challenge becomes the fear in the visibility, which is funny. So a lot of it is, I guess, first of all, it's knowing what to say. Second of all, it's the fear of rejection. And third is whether they think that they even have a voice to begin with. So there's one bucket, but then there's the other bucket of women that are already doing it and carving out their space. There is always something to say, especially within your industry or your business. You can carve out a space for you. And, sometimes I say the niche, the better, and then go broad after that. So if you've got a topic, you'll always find a community that you can center around it. It's just making sure that you're giving people value so that they know why they're coming to you to begin with. So what sort of information are they going to learn from you? What are they going to walk away with, and how are you going to make them feel? That is the most important thing. But in terms of being thought leaders, I feel that it's something that is spoken about at the moment so much. We're seeing it on LinkedIn. Everyone is, talking about what they're doing, what they're up to, their thoughts. And I feel like it's a very important space. I just think that everyone needs to focus on what their voice is, though. Especially, I'm going to take it slightly in a different direction, but with the use of AI, I feel like everyone is starting to sound the same. And that, to me, isn't thought leadership.
No.
We need to be using AI. It's incredibly, incredibly important, but you need to also inject your own personality, tone of voice, and make sure that the views that you're talking about are actually yours. This, I feel like, you'll cut through far greater than anyone else that is just using a copy and paste from LinkedIn. I mean, people that know that there is another person on the other end is more important. That's why I think video is incredibly valuable. But even then, a lot of them are AI scripts, which is fine. You can inject your personality. But this is why thought leadership is going to be in your face-to-face interactions as well, and the brand that you build of yourself by interacting with others, building out that reputation.
It's so true. And we've seen a shift, maybe in the last couple of months, because one thing that's for sure is in business now, adaptability is a superpower.
Yes.
Every 3 months, AI goes, oh, by the way, we're over here now.
Yeah.
I was doing this. Oh, that's what everyone expects,
yeah.
Really? And so that ability to change is really important. But I think that when you're looking at that in terms of what you build of your brand, of a relationship you have with the market and so on, you really need to fall into your human skills,
yes.
Who you are as a person. And in the corporate world, it's still frowned upon. It's like, no, this is our value as a company. Mm-hmm. And you know this from the background that, I've worked with corporates and stuff for many years as well. But what it seems to be, especially banks are the worst. This is our mission and these are our values. We care about our shareholders more than, well, none of the people you know of shareholders is like 20 people around a desk.
Yeah.
So you care about them more than the actual customers, and everyone's drumming that into the customer.
Yeah.
That's what's so important. And I think that the ability to turn around and be transparent and honest is a really important thing that people have to kind of unlearn the corporate speak and go back to who they really are in order to gather that community, gather that world, get people to buy into them as human beings, because it's a really important skill to have.
Yeah.
And it can't be replaced by AI, certainly not at this point. Because AI is very good at amplification and mimicking, but getting it wrong and admitting it and people can feel the empathy is important. As a speaker, one of the things that I learned, and it's mainly from, I guess, growing up as a mixed race kid in white towns and areas before I left to come to the UAE, which is all colors and all, it's a very interesting and beautiful mix, is I realized that I had the ability to get the Wi-Fi code of people very quickly. I could profile them very quickly because I wanted to know, is this going to be a friend or is this going to be a fight? Or is this going to be somebody that I can nurture?
Yeah.
And so you're watching everybody and working it out. As an entertainer or a speaker, you go out in front of an audience and you can just work out the mood going up, going down, the energy and all the rest of it. But that ability to read your people is so important. So when you've got a community and you build that community, You can see by a post that somebody makes or a trend that's happened or something in the news, it changes shape. How do you bring it back on track again? Or do you just trust the people that you've put in there to do it for each other? You stand back and it falls back into place again.
I can't say that I think I've been very fortunate up until this point that I haven't seen a huge amount of negativity across the members at all. The posts that they're posting, there have been a huge amount of collaborations within the network. So I have seen that in previous organizations. And, I think that, again, it's leading by example. I feel like that is such a big part of it. Obviously, you can't control everything. But I don't know yet because I haven't experienced it.
But you may have to put your thumb on the scale slightly sometimes to keep things back on track.
Yeah.
Like if you went away for 2 weeks
Yes.
and didn't pay attention and came back, would it still flow the same way?
I think it would. Yeah. I think it would.
Excellent.
Yeah. At this stage. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll find out then.
Yeah.
No,
I'm actually going away in a couple of
Are you really?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we'll find out. I'll ask you when you come back.
I will.
So let's look at your businesses. What is the right mix for you to be able to be successful? You've got a community, which I'd just like to state, I think that in a world that's been so obsessed with influencers, I've got more likes than anybody else, I get more comments, I've got more followers. I don't think that's the currency anymore. I think the currency is about building a group of people around you who tell you the truth and support you. I think that's where things go next. I think micro-influence is more important. And I think that's where the money's going. The corporations, etc., turn around saying, who really buys in to this person and their vision and that community? Because that I know will get people to buy my product. And so that kind of works. When you look at what you have, how do you balance your community and your businesses so you've got the right spread of having several pillars of income without just putting all the eggs into the same basket? Or do you just see how the flow goes and take it from there?
So up until I'd say the first couple of years when I was figuring it out, for me, so I'm a very strategic, even though at a lot of times for anyone else, it might look quite chaotic because I started Season, then Lens, and then now Female Founders Network. But in my mind, I was following the trajectory of what I knew I needed to work on at the time. There was a time that I was working on a lot of different things, but it was to, I guess, have more of a sense check and guide myself on what I needed to do. When I was starting to do Lens, I quickly realized that the Female Founders Network was a quicker route to revenue, and it was a quicker route to the next step for me, build out an audience, a beautiful community that would then use Lens as a user base as well. With where I am at the moment.
Could you explain what Season is and Lens is?
So Season, oh my gosh, Season's my first little baby. Season is essentially a sales enablement platform that's leveraged by AI. So for salespeople, we are fantastic at going out, meeting people, reading people, pitching, and then closing the deal, ideally. But it's out, it's meetings, it's getting information, discoveries. What we're not great at all the time is finding the right people at the right time with the right budgets. And that takes a lot of time. So basically this platform, Season, which is specifically for the tech and advertising or the media and advertising industry, because that was my industry, it allows you to source exactly the right people at the right time with the right budgets for marketing campaigns that you could then pitch business for. So that's anyone from media agencies. So we would work with big media agencies and we would know exactly when campaigns are dropping, how much the budgets are, who to connect with. And then you could use AI to then write emails directly to them, and then get that response. So it's just saving so much time. It's qualified and it's in bulk. Win-win.
Does it sit on top of LinkedIn, or is it independent? How does it work?
No, it's like it's its own platform, and it plugs into Gmail, it plugs into HubSpot and any of your CRMs. But that's one of them. And then Lens, which I won't speak too much about Lens because I'm still building it at the moment, but it's basically just a tech platform for content creators. The test market is going to be in Dubai with the intention for it to be global and take over the world. And then obviously at the moment we've got the Female Founders Network, which is just one of my biggest pride and joys because it's where I could even cry talk. I just am so proud of the community and I love all of the women, and I just feel like it's just such a special space.
Is there room for more organizations like yours?
Yes. Oh my gosh, always.
And how would you feel about it if there was more competition for the same people?
So I'll say this, there is a new community popping up every single day in Dubai. There is so much competition. For me, I have never, so of the things that I've ever been insecure about, comparison or competitive competition has never been one of them. We are, like, I have my own tone of voice, as do all of the other community founders. And we are, we may be speaking to similar audiences, but you're never going to operate your business exactly the same. You will attract the people that are right for your community. With the Female Founders Network, if you have a look at our page versus other pages, you can quickly differentiate or get a feel for what the differences are. They're not good or bad or right or wrong, because all of the communities that we have in Dubai are incredible. And I'm such a big fan of everyone's, all of them.
Do you mean that? Are you just
No,
saying
I
it?
absolutely, legitimately mean that.
So what do you think then when you look at something that pops up and you look at it? Do you look at it with a helicopter view, very benevolent view, and I hope there's enough for everybody and I hope you do well? What's your...
I have...
sorry to say, but you must be looking at it from a CEO's point of view as well, saying, oh, that's not going to work.
As in mine or theirs?
No, theirs. When you see things happening, you can love everybody, but you've also got to be critique about it.
Yeah, I think it's important to know your market, know who's out there, what the differences are, so that you can position yourself. But I'm a bit woo-woo when I live in an abundance mindset. I know that there is more than enough for everyone, especially in an environment that is so incredibly isolating. So in a lot of cases, there are women that are members of Female Founders Network and members of other communities. I can tell you with absolute certainty that when I see other businesses that are competing with us doing well, or other business, I really enjoy it, because it means that there is success for us as well. There is a market for us, especially in this space. And the thing is, in this space is we are a growing space. With the female founders, like in 2024, only 2% of all of female founder companies were backed by VCs. There is such huge opportunity, so much opportunity. So we are one of many, and I hope that there are more communities, but there's never going to be one like mine. There's never going to be one like my competitors. We are different as humans. We have different experience. We communicate and we have different values. That is the reality.
Work-life balance. The hardest thing for many people, male and female, is getting that whole ecosystem around you where you're growing a family, or you've chosen to be independent of family, but you've also got to find some part that is yours as well. When you look at the 100 or so people in your community, how many of them, and I'm being nosy here, but it's a good reason for asking, how many have sacrificed a family, how many are balancing a family, and how many are aspiring to?
Yeah.
Because it's an important factor to look at your growth, because you can be hijacked by all of them if you don't have the right way to pace it or the right way to look at it. If you spend too much time working and you've got a family, you neglect things that happen. Spend too long with your family and the business suffers. Do you find that's an issue, or what would you say as an overview?
I think, no, I agree in that women are constantly juggling a million different things. I think it's just about prioritizing what's important at what time and finding what works for you. I think the community makes it easier for people to know that everyone is cuckoo. Everyone's going through it. Everyone has a million things going on. Sometimes you'll feel like you're the king of the world and you'll have it all sorted. And other times you absolutely won't, because you'll have, someone's graduation, a child is unwell, husband is traveling, or, maybe you don't have any of those things and you're doing it all by yourself and you're just trying to figure it out. Like, it's no different to, I guess it's no different to anyone else that's just trying to figure out where their place is in the world. We just need to figure it out.
But we've got a much more lonely population in every country than we've ever had before. Devices are great for connecting, but they actually stop us being physically connected to people. And it's so easy to be devoted to doing your business and growing that at the sacrifice of other things. So do you think that there's have you found that in your business it's not an issue, or would you say that there is something? Because as the CEO, as the leader, you have to sometimes say to people, don't burn out,
Yeah.
Go and spend some you time. Do something selfish for a while.
Of course. And I say that all the time, genuinely. Most of the things that we do are in-person events. So people are meeting each other face to face. Typically, there's always a level of education that's involved, whether there's an expert speaker, but then they have the ability to push forward with their business, but at the same time, they're meeting other women. And sometimes they're like, oh my gosh, how was your week? Or other times they're like, oh my gosh, I'm thriving. So I guess it's just figuring it out as you go.
So AI, what's AI done for you since you started running your businesses? Quite clearly, as an entrepreneur, a sole entrepreneur, or with a small business, it means you can amplify to a huge amount.
Yes.
Where do you see this going for you, and how will you be using it for your future ventures?
So a lot of the things I'm hearing from people is how scared of AI they are, and I just don't understand how you could be scared of it. I understand that there are challenges when you can see that AI is becoming smarter and smarter, like more smarter than us. But we are in the driver's seat. You have the ability to 100 times your output and make more room for more soft activities by leveraging AI on your business. I think the easiest things that I've outsourced AI for is typical, like things like admin and tasks like that. But in the future, I see it being just a sidekick to what you're doing within your business, but you are still the driver. Like I was building out a piece of strategy that I'm going to present to the women in a couple of weeks, and all of the thoughts have come from me. And then you put it into AI to sort of streamline some of the process. And then it comes back and you're like, no, that's not quite right. I love it as a bit of a brainstorming tool, but I would never rely on it because I have used it before for things that I don't know as well. Or actually, some things that I do know better. And I'm like, the information it's giving me, I'm like, that is just so inaccurate.
Yes.
Or like, I just would never operate like that. So with where it is at the moment, for me, it's just your sidekick that allows you to do things better, but keep using your brain because that you need it and help you develop things faster at a quicker rate. I know that with the future of agentic AI, things are going to change dramatically where you'll have actual teams, robotic teams on the ground doing and facilitating bigger projects. And I'm really open to that, but I feel like you still need to be, your heart needs to be very close on the pulse to what's going on in your business. You know, people aren't re-signing up, people are leaving. Why? These sorts of questions can't always be determined by what's going on with AI. You need to work really closely with it.
So I'm going to go deeper into that exact subject there, because here in the UAE, OpenAI are opening one of their biggest headquarters in the future. And one of the things that we've done as a deal is the government of Dubai, of UAE, has turned around and said, right, everybody gets free ChatGPT Plus. Now, I've had it from the very beginning. I'm sure it's the same for you. And I love it. But like you say, you have to double check. Why are you doing that? I said we're not doing that now. You've just gone back to something. I have to start a new one. So it's not quite what it seems sometimes, and that you've got to keep an eye on it. But from your experience, it does amplify, it does make it easier, and it saves on time. Would you advocate that kids should have an AI agent as a partner from an early age, because then they will get through school and everything easier? Or do you think they should do it on their own? I'm not a big fan of school anyway.
My first gut reaction, and I haven't had time to think about it, is I think that there is a space for AI. I don't think that it should be partnered. I don't think kids should be partnered with AI, but I also, because I feel like you need to think on your own. And if you're telling something to do something for you, you're eliminating the problem solving and the strategic skills. It's incredibly important though, because it's almost like the calculator, you know, like when you did math and, you know, you had to do all of these calculations, but actually you have a calculator in your pocket, and that's going to be the same as AI. Kids will have it. The challenge is, we want to set them up so that they can operate AI in the right way, but we still need to make sure their cognitive learning, their strategic skills, their soft skills are developing at a quick rate as well, not just relying on technology to help them get out of it. Otherwise, in years to come, we're going to have a generation that doesn't know how to communicate with each other.
Well, like now.
Actually, yeah, that's a good point. But also relies on, you know, if someone did ask you a question that was a fairly simple question, your first thought is, I better ask, like getting the gratification or the, validation from a system rather than trusting your own gut instinct. So I think that there's a space, but we need to also be teaching the proper skills.
But it's kind of, it feels a lot like shutting the barn door after the horse has bolted. It's so much out there anyway. And which is your preferred one? Are you ChatGPT?
I am at the moment. I've dabbled with a couple, but I'm ChatGPT at the moment.
Same here. And when we did the recent shift to GPT-5
Yes.
and cut 4 completely, we brought it back again. I found, and I'd already gone through this with a previous upgrade where I'd created a mini me as an assistant.
Yeah.
And then when we upgraded, it lost its voice because it didn't add the voice bit to it. And so suddenly it could only text. So I couldn't talk to it in the car. And it made me go, hold on, you're too reliant on this.
Yeah.
So I haven't reproduced that since. I just use it as a very good way of getting my Encyclopedia Britannica version of my staff to be able to talk back. But what we did here is across the world, there were lots of people who lost their best friend.
Yeah.
With the upgrade, which is one of the reasons that OpenAI turned around and said, okay, we'll give you the option of going back again. That's a massive danger, isn't it? When we're so reliant on it,
Yes.
that we don't do our own stuff anymore.
Yeah, it is massive. But also what's massive is ChatGPT, if you're talking to it about like a best friend, it does validate you like that. The way that it operates is to make you feel better. So if you're always being validated, and, it's nice to be heard, and I think it does that as well, but you have to be very mindful that it is your best friend. Like it's
programmed to be your best friend.
It's programmed to only find the good things in everything that you're saying.
Yeah. I fell out with one of my closest friends because we had an argument, and he answered me with his ChatGPT to tell me exactly why I was wrong. And it was written the way that if Shakespeare and Einstein had a baby, it would have written it like that. And after a couple of different answers like that, I just went, we're done. We're done. Because I know you. I know you don't write like that. But you're adamant that somewhere you've bought into this too much that I can't play with you at this moment in time. So it can be a huge challenge. But then again, I look at what I do and what I create, and we're saying that the next billionaire will be one person plus AI. And I can easily see that if you can get to do your agents the right way and you get something to explode the right way, that's a very feasible option. I think what it does is it empowers everybody to raise their game. So they're not reliant on what would have been the corporate world of favors and friends and people who like you versus politics being played. I think it puts more people on a level playing field than ever before. So that's a major plus. But I also think that when it comes to the challenges facing children or young people at school, I think that like you say, the cognitive things are going to be an issue, but do they have to be a problem from that? The reason I say it is because in my day, we had an abacus, and that wasn't that far back, but you'd use your calculator to work stuff out. And I don't think I've ever used the subjects that I studied at school ever. Yeah. And I've had somebody turn around and said, yeah, but algebra. I said, what was it? Calculus. I said, calculus I've never used. Yes, you have. When you program your phone to do stuff, you're following algorithms. I'm not. I'm following a pattern because it told me what to do. I didn't need to do all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a good thing to streamline it because the education industry needed to have a revamp anyway. And with AI, it gets a lot faster and you can create something that's in your own image.
Yeah.
So when you create a community like you're doing right now and you know exactly how to put it together, now part of it's your experience and part of it is where you know people need to be. I can see a lot more of that kind of growth with what AI brings to the table. What's your thoughts on that?
No, I agree. Definitely.
So with that, where do you see yourself being? Because you've now got these businesses that are growing, this community that's growing. You're going, this is all right. I like Dubai. It's working kind of well for me. But I can tell there's massive ambition still in there. Yeah. You are very alpha in a nice way. You are very alpha. A little bit alpha. Where do you want to be?
Why am I alpha?
You said to me something earlier. And it was that you've always believed that you can do stuff and make it happen.
Yes.
You're not alpha as in, I'll get you in a headlock until you say that you're going to do stuff. But you are part of it's your charm, but part of it is the fact that because you're leading people without blinking, it's just easy for you to do. There's an alpha version of what you do. I wouldn't like to be on the wrong side of you because I think that's a challenge to deal with anyway. But this side of you is wonderful to deal with and to talk to. Where do you see this whole package of where you're going to take you in the future? At what point, if ever, and you're not allowed to say never, I want an answer, will you say, this is good. I can stop here. I can plateau for a while.
So it's hard because I feel at the moment we are just at the beginning with the Female Founders Network. So at the moment, my sole focus is on the Female Founders Network. So I know before you were like, oh, how are you balancing? I truly believe that until I get a Female Founders Network at a certain stage, it needs to be my sole focus because whilst I've got the values and everything is aligned, we're still in our growth period. And so I need to be very, very hands-on at this stage. So I see it absolutely exploding. I've got such big plans for it.
How many people?
So I would see us being 2,500 to 5,000 members globally. Well, in my, I don't know, maybe 2 years, 1 year. And then, so I see it being global, but I see it doing more than just. At the moment, we're an incredible community that helps women scale. I see us doing more from a specific mentorship perspective. I see us doing more from an overall, I don't know how to say it, but not like a guaranteed, like working with governments to make sure that women have these opportunities to pitch. You know, we're doing pitch nights. We're doing a pitch night with AWS. We're collaborating with them in October. And for me, it's all about just working with the best of the best. And that's how we'll be the best of the best, like partners that have incredible resources and collaborating with them to make sure that we're able to really take it to the next level. For me, I know that I talk about, oh, I want this, but at my core, I won't grow at a pace that doesn't sustain the values because that is very important to me. If you asked me 10 years ago, I would have been like Wolf of Wall Street, let's go, hustle, hustle. But staying true to myself, leading with integrity is actually way more important to me than having a business that doesn't reflect those qualities, genuinely. I want women to know that they're coming to events and feel that it's just such a safe space and feel happy to be sharing. And if you grow too quickly, you're at risk of bringing in, what do we call them? Black rocks? No, not great people. The quicker you grow, it's hard to make sure that you're bringing in the right people, you have the right members.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm rambling a little bit, but I don't know. The reality is you grow as well as you can in the time that you have. For me, I see us scaling globally. We've got a great offline offering, but also online. So we do a lot of webinars, which we can sort of service the global market. I see us doing more events in other markets as well. And, just setting such a wonderful example for women.
Do you like being comfortable or uncomfortable most?
Uncomfortable. Always uncomfortable.
Same.
It's probably my biggest flaw at times, but also what has helped me because
Superpower.
I'm always uncomfortable. Always.
So how do you manage to take a break then if you're always worried about stuff? Because it can catch up on you when you don't have quiet moments because you're worried, am I doing enough?
Well, I am okay with that now. The burnout stage for me has passed and it was such a huge realization of what's important. But I always will so long as it's aligned. So what I used to do before is if I felt fear of something, I would just do it tenfold in the biggest way possible. Now, if it's not aligned, it's a no. Even if I'm fearful of it, it doesn't matter. It's not, I've got my strategy. If it's not aligned with my strategy, it's a no. If it is, and I'm scared of it, it's a yes. Always. With big opportunities that come my way, if it's aligned with my strategy, it's a yes.
Who do you admire? Who do you look at and say, if that's my role model or that's who I'd like to be? Because you kind of didn't answer my question about when it comes to the end of it, am I happy? You wanted to grow and you told me a bit about that.
Well,
I'm trying to work out where you go and what's driving you to be who you are. Who are you, a Meryl Streeper? Who do you look at and go, that's the girl for me, or that's the guy for me, or that's a person I look at for guidance on this?
That's actually a really good question because
I've had 2 so far in this session. We've done an hour. That's better than my average, so thank you.
So if the first person, this is a bit cliche, but the first person that I think of is my grandma, who's no longer with us, but she has always been such a huge believer of everything that I'm doing and knows that what I'm doing has a wonderful mission and has the right values. So whenever I think about, am I doing a good job? I think about my grandma. There are so many people that I admire at the moment that are doing incredible things, like, anyone from like Cody Sanchez to even Alex Hormozy, anyone that is, Chris Doe. I love the work that he's doing. I'm in love with Dr. Joe Dispenza and the philosophy he has on how we can genuinely change our life based on our thoughts. But for me, I use the success that the people around me, like these people, not that they're around me, they've, accomplished such great things, use it as case studies of what I'm able to accomplish myself. So I'm still in the place that I know that I want to build out big businesses. My biggest driver is having an incredible team. I love teamwork. I love bringing the best out of others, because I know that when you're able to bring the best out of others, that's when you're able to drive the best outcomes. That's why I've always loved team sport as well. I was always really big into netball.
Netball.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
very, very big. In fact, like I was always starting different teams because, I know that I've got a certain skill set and I'm just so inspired by someone that has like the direct opposite skill set of me or different skill sets, and seeing how they operate when you're working together and then driving a goal. So I don't know if that really answers your question. I think for me, I'm figuring it out. I don't have this big end goal. I just know it's going to be big. I know that leading with integrity and making sure that, I give my team the biggest opportunities is so important to me. My members, making sure that they feel like they are truly supported. Because in my life, growing up, sometimes I didn't actually feel always very supported. I didn't feel like I had a huge network, and I feel like I have the skill to be able to build that for others.
Yeah, I'm the same. The community I'm building is because there wasn't one for me.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, let's just see who's like-minded. And it's amazing how many people gravitate
Yes,
towards it.
they do.
Because you just go, oh, thank goodness somebody's done it. And you've got that space that you make open. Sometimes you have to go, stop selling and spamming. Stop putting your stuff out there. There's a place to do it, and I'll show you where it is.
Yeah.
So one question, probably our last question.
Yes.
And it's really nosy of me. It's got nothing to do with me.
Oh,
you
my
can
gosh.
refuse to answer it if you want. But at the very beginning of today's session, you said the biggest challenge you had was you went to a new place, you didn't like the job, and you'd split with a 7-year relationship. Where does that leave you now? Because when you are growing so much and you influence so many people and you're so busy, that's kind of intimidating for another person to join you in your life. And also, you've got higher standards.
Yeah.
It's really easy to turn around to somebody and say, yes, come into my life, but then go,
what the hell are you here for?
yeah, you can't balance it. Have you got somebody in your life right now?
Yes.
And with that person, how do they manage to deal with you, and how do you manage to deal with them? Because it's a challenge.
So my persona right here may be different. I'm this cute little teddy bear at home. I'm just kidding. I think I am certainly the strongest that I have ever been. And what brings with that is also a huge amount of compassion for, my partner and understanding for my partner. We just have something that works. So I can't describe it. When we met, it was just quite special. And then,
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's just something that has worked.
I wish you all the best with that. That's fantastic. And thank you for being honest and answering a question. I'm just going to add a conclusion that I came to on that many years ago. I remember splitting with a partner, and she was clearly bonkers and I wasn't, but that's what happens sometimes. And I read a book by a guy called Paul McKenna. It's How to Mend a Broken Heart. And one of the things that's so fascinating about it is it said, stop looking for somebody to complete you.
Yeah.
Complete yourself. And that means that if you're happy in your own skin with or without a partner, there's less pressure on that person to have to make your life better.
Totally.
Because you can always walk away and go back to where you were. But it also means that when you've got that partner in your life, they can enhance it without having the pressure on them to be equal and
Yeah.
be better and all that other stuff. And I found that once I changed my way of looking at Disney movies, which Disney did change, I've got to be honest, is no longer about the heroines looking for a guy
Damsel in
to save her.
distress.
Exactly. They don't do that anymore. And some of my favorite movies of all time are like Moana
Yeah.
and the one with the rabbit, Judy Hopps, I'm trying to remember what, Zootopia, where you've got the female character who doesn't need any help at all. And I think it's really important in the world that we're in right now to be happy in your own skin. Be who you are. Get what you can out of life.
Yes.
And if you can find a traveling partner that can join you on that journey, all the better. But they don't have to be equal to you. They just have to not break everything that you play with.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
Amazing. There we go. It's been a pleasure meeting you.
And you.
A pleasure talking to you. I cannot wait to see in 2 years' time this global corporation that you've created of these incredibly strong people. And one of the reasons I'm so fascinated to see your journey is because when I talk to you and ask you questions, and I've asked you questions on lots of different subjects, every answer you've given me has knocked it out of the park about who you are as a person.
Oh, thank you.
So therefore, if you're building a community, you're building a community based on those kind of objectives, values, morals, and positioning, which is what the world needs to have more of right now.
Thank you.
It's Wild West out there. And we
It
do
is.
need leaders like yourself who care, who are smart enough to grow and take a whole lot of people with you on that journey. So thank you for that.
No, thank you so much.
Can't wait to find out what happens next.
And thank you so much for the wonderful day and the amazing 2 questions.
Yeah, all the rest of them.
I'm, just,
We'll just edit them out, Andy. We'll get rid of everything else. Just keep 2 questions.
I'm kidding. No, it was wonderful to talk to you.
What's your favourite colour? Are you married? That's all we're going to have from now on. But anyway,
Thanks, Dave.
whatever we leave in, that'll be the extended version that maybe we'll put onto YouTube later. So thank you for
Amazing.
that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Excellent. So I hope you enjoyed today's session. Make sure, I've got to ask you before we actually do that, how can people connect with you? There's going to be women watching now who say, how do I get access to being able to talk to you? Sponsors, how do I get access to? They can get you on LinkedIn anyway.
Yes. So LinkedIn, otherwise Instagram, Nicki_Bedford, NICKI_Bedford, BEDFORD, or Female Founder Official on Instagram. And
the website to go
oh
to?
yeah, foundersofficial.com.
And do you have a limit on how many people can join you? Are you open to all new people?
Where if you are an ambitious woman, if you are a generous woman that want to see other women win, then come and join me.
I was just waiting for you to say you don't have to be a woman, but you didn't do that. So, okay, we'll leave it there. But thank you so much for telling us once again, Dave's not eligible to join.
You're still not eligible.
No, I'm okay. I can live with that. So that's today's show. Make sure you connect with Nicki. I hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you've got questions you'd like to share, as always, put them in the comments, and I'm sure Nicki will be able to answer. Connect with her, connect with me, and let us know what you need from us in the future. Dariush will be back very soon to sit in this seat. I'll be sitting on the other seat. We're going to have some incredible guests for you. Who do you want to see? What do you want from that? And what areas can we help you with Gladiator TV? That's it today. Hope you enjoyed it. Catch you on another episode. Have the most amazing day. And if anything, jump and grow wings on the way down, just as Nicki said, and I live by. This is Gladiator TV.
Bye.